Okay. I just want to make sure before I start that everyone can see my screen here. You can just put it into the comments or unmute for a quick second to let me know. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Donna. Okay, so we're going to get started, and if anyone else joins us as we go along, I'll just let them into the room here. So today we're talking, well, thank you actually for everyone who's here. Jay, hey, do you mind just writing your name in the chat so I know better how to identify you? So I know what school you're coming from. Thank you, Chad. I know you just registered yesterday, so it's awesome to see that you're on the call today to learn a little bit more about this event. We will just get started. So thank you again for all being here. Today we're going to be talking about the Screaming Eagle for the Manitoba Indigenous Games. So we will do a bit of an introduction to the game, talk about how it's being implemented for MIG, talk about its history. We'll also look at how to make an ownership stick, both traditionally and non-traditionally. Then we'll get into some technical aspects of the game by looking at the technical package and reviewing that a little bit, looking at how to score the event, as well as how to submit results. Following that, we'll just chat a little bit about what things you can do at your school to prepare for this event with your students as we are approaching the games. And lastly, we're just going to review some important information that you guys can all have in your back pocket for the weeks coming up. There, that's better. So the Screaming Eagle, so the history of this game, traditionally it was played by the Ojibwe and the Arapaho people, and it's a game of endurance and stamina. Just to give a bit of a description of the game, it's basically kids or adults or whoever wants to play screaming and running all at the same time. So when they're given the signal, they put their ownership stick in the air and they run and they scream as loud as they can and as far as they can, all in one breath. And as soon as you run out of air to scream, you have to stop where you are, and that's the distance that you have gained. So the goal of the game for MIG is to run as many meters as possible while you're screaming. Each participant will have 3 turns to do so. And after each turn, the distance they ran will be measured. And so in the end, after their 3 turns, the total the total meters will be calculated, and that will be their final score. What you need for this game is actually pretty simple. It's one of our easier events for MIG. You'll need an ownership stick, and I'll talk about what that looks like in a minute. And you'll need a tool to measure those distances. So if you have a big meter measure, or if you have a measuring tape, if you count your steps, whatever it is, you'll need a tool of some sort to measure the distance, as long as you're being consistent with each of the groups that you're doing or anything like that. That'll be perfect. Making an ownership stick. So I'm going to show you a video in a second, but essentially an ownership stick is something that the students or yourself can make with them. It's made out of typically red willow, or dogwood. Basically any type of stick that is bendable or that will be pliable. And what you do is you have a long stick about 2 or 3 feet long, and the top will be bent into a little hoop. So then it gives you a hoop and a handle. After you've harvested your willow or dogwood and you've created that hoop at the top, from there you really get creative. And each of the students will personalize their ownership stick and really make it their own. So they can use any type of decoration they want. They can use different colors. They can use beads, stones, sinew, anything they want to decorate their stick. So just to give you an example, I'm going to just click on the video here so you guys can all see a visual of what that looks like. This video demonstrates the strong pieces. That's the wrong one. Hold on. This one. Oh, sorry, guys. Here it is. Okay. So in that video, you saw Carolyn, she had her stick, so she had her red willow. She cut off all of the extra branches, bent it to make that hoop at the top. And then after that, she decorated it with string, with feathers, with beads, and anything that she wants. So if you guys get a chance to do this with your students, or if they're doing it on their own time at home with their parents, they really do want to get creative and really use whatever they want to make that their own stick. So now we're just going to quickly go over the technical package. Like I said, this is one of the more simple events for MIG, so there aren't too many rules or regulations that you have to be following, but we will just take a look here to give you guys, to get you familiar with what that technical package looks like, and to make sure that you're familiar with what those rules are. So if ever you're looking for the technical packages, don't forget that they are on our website. So www.masrc.com/MIG. They're all linked there. So whichever event you're looking for, you can always find them on our website. And I'm going to focus on only a couple sections here. I'm going to focus on the event setup, the event participation, equipment, the competition format, the competition rules, and the scoring. So I'm going to skip over to event setup. So for this event, it can be held with all age categories or genders at once, or separately. It can be within cohorts, within classes, whatever is easiest for you guys. It really does not matter. Like I've said before, our goal for MIG is to make this a meaningful experience for the students, but we also don't want to make this overly complicated for you guys. So if you're just doing this within your gym class or as a program after school, you guys have total leniency on how you want to run the events. This event can be held indoors or outdoors. Of course, running outdoors and screaming might be a little bit more comfortable on the ears, or you'll have longer distances to run. But if you want to do it within your gym classes, in your gym, that's totally fine as well. The other thing that you need to set up is just to make sure that you have a baseline of where your participants are going to start, to make sure that everyone's starting at the same spot. We already talked about the ownership stick. So this is part of your equipment setup. So we do encourage the participants to make their own ownership sticks. Like I said, traditionally it would be made of dogwood or willow. But if you either don't have time to harvest or aren't able to bring your students out to harvest, that's absolutely fine. I would recommend using maybe popsicle sticks and decorating those, or even just using any type of school type of article, like if you have a ruler or if you have like a marker, or whatever you want. It doesn't matter what it is. For the participation, there's no minimum or maximum of participants that are allowed to participate. So just as many students as you want can participate in each of the age categories. We talked about the equipment, like I said, the ownership stick and the measuring tool. And the competition format is an event measured by distance. So just compared to other events that we have for MIG, other ones might be measured by points or score, things like that. This one is measured by distance. So the rules, as I described earlier, the rules for this are pretty simple. You have your ownership stick, and when you're given the signal to start, you take a huge deep breath and you start screaming and running with your ownership stick in the air. And you run and run and run until you run out of air. And once you run out of air, you have to stop where you are. At that point, you would place your ownership stick down on the ground, and the distance would be measured. Once the distance is measured, the next participant can go, and you kind of go on until everyone has had 3 turns in total. Next, so we're at the scoring phase. So everyone's had their 3 turns. You have their distances measured for each of those turns, and you're going to put that into your score sheet. So I'm gonna click back to my presentation. I have an example of a score sheet here. So here I have Joey. She is in the 13U age category. She is female and identifies as First Nation. So you're gonna fill this out with them. And then here's the score sheet. So on turn 1, she achieved 27 meters. On turn 2, 30 meters, and on turn 3, 24 meters. Now, keep in mind, I just wrote numbers down. I have no idea how accurate this is for a 13-year-old. It might be much higher or much lower. I really don't know how to gauge that. So it'll be interesting to see everyone's results. After each of the 3 turns, then you just add the 3 together. So 27 plus 30 plus 24 is 81. So scoring this event is pretty simple. Now, when you are submitting your results, you might at some point or even during your event notice that students are ending up with the same score. So that could be pretty, I think that's going to be a one-off if you do end up with a tie, but it's very possible. So if you do end up with a tie for someone in the same age category and gender, we have to break that tie, because keep in mind, we will be ranking all of these results at the provincial level. So we do need to have a way of breaking ties and finding winners. So within your own group, in your school, if you have a tie of both, if 2 students have the same score, your first step to break the tie will be to have both of those participants have another turn. So I've written that they are going to run and scream and do the screaming eagle at the same time. Whoever scores the highest in points during that one race will break that tie. If they fluke off and they both end up getting the same score again, the next step to take is to look at their score sheet. So the participant who scored highest on their first attempt will win that tie. And then it'll be the same rule again and again if you still have a tie. Now, like I said, it's probably very unlikely that that would happen, but you never know. So the rules for tie breaking are outlined in the technical package for you to look at. Now, I have an example here. So we have Joey and we have Mackenzie. We notice that they're both in the same age category. They're both female, and they ended up with the same score. They both have 81. So what you're going to do is you're going to have Joey and Mackenzie break the tie by doing the screaming eagle at the same time. Now, let's just say, for example's sake, that they scored the same score again. They got 30 meters. So you still have to break the tie. So then you would look at the tiebreaker rule. So, sorry, I skipped one here. Oh no. So Joey and Mackenzie would do another round and they are tied. They both have 30 meters. So you look at number 2. Whoever scored the highest on their first attempt wins the tie. So we're going to look at the score sheet. Joey on her first turn got 27 and Mackenzie on her first turn had 26. So by looking at those turns, we can see that Joey would win this tie. And so that's what you would submit, is Joey was first place. Does that make sense to everyone? Please, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute or put it in the chat, whatever's easiest for you guys, just at any point. So how to prepare for this event in your school? Oh, I have a question. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Jared. Makes sense. Awesome. Okay, so how you can prepare for this event at your school. Like I said, it's really a game of stamina and endurance. So physical activities that you can do to prepare for this. I mean, you can practice screaming eagle. You can do that. You can maybe get them doing sprints, or you can get them running long distances. You can get them holding their breath, like really anything that you feel might help them scream and run for really long distances. But this is supposed to be sort of a fun game, and some students, I wouldn't be surprised, might feel a little bit standoffish with this game, and that's okay. I would just encourage you to be, understanding that not everyone might be comfortable with this activity, although it might be fun for some people. For others, it might not. They might not have the same allure to it. So just keep that in mind and be just understanding with them. And if they don't want to participate in it, they don't have to. Don't, we want to make it fun for everyone, and definitely doesn't need to be forced on them. I just skipped a slide here. Here we go. Other things that you can do to prepare for this event is making your ownership sticks. So if you're planning to make traditional sticks, or if that's even something that the students want to do on their own, they can go and harvest the materials, and then they'll make the hoop and they'll customize it and decorate it however they want. If any of your schools, I know some of you have already received equipment from me, then you'll notice if you requested Screaming Eagle equipment from me, you'll receive a whole bunch of popsicle sticks. So those are the large popsicle sticks. I got them from Dollarama. And that this is for you guys to give to your students, and they can decorate it and customize it however they want. If they want to go ahead and glue beads to it, or if they want to put feathers on it, or like pipe cleaners or whatever it is, they can still use those popsicle sticks. It's not harvested, but they can still make it their own ownership stick. So that might be a fun activity for some students to make. That really wraps up all of my information on the Screaming Eagle specifically. So please, if you have any questions, just let me know. But before we end off, I'm just going to remind you of some important information coming up. I think I have 5 schools left who I need to send out equipment to. And if you have not received your equipment from me, or if you have not heard anything from me, I do ask you to reach out as soon as you can, so that I can make sure that that's figured out. Important bullet point number 2 is your archery certification. So if you have not yet completed your range safety officer training, the deadline to do so is April 23rd. And this is a hard deadline. Okay, the event is soon after, starting on May 3rd. So I do need to receive your certification by the 23rd, so I can go through all of the process of double checking them, making sure everyone is good to go. So please keep that in mind. Next is the strong person carry. Just a reminder that we have our training for that next Wednesday, the 14th at 4 p.m. That will also be a really quick and short presentation. So just keep that in mind. I won't keep you for very long. And lastly is information on submitting your results. So I'm still creating what that might look like. I'm working with the Frontier School Division because they did something very similar for their Frontier games. So I'm sort of learning from them and seeing what works and what doesn't work. So as soon as that's finalized on my end, I will most likely have a mandatory Zoom training for the teachers, or I will record a session that you guys can refer back to as you need as you're submitting results. Because I know that after school isn't always a good time, lunch isn't always a good time. So in any case, you'll have access to some sort of resource that'll help guide you while you're submitting those results. Okay. So, Chad, your hand is up. How can I help? Oh, you're muted, I think. I can't quite hear you. Maybe do you want to type it in the chat? No, still can't hear. We can always connect afterwards if you'd like. Oh, yeah, Chad, I received your email today and I'm going to send everything to you as soon as we're off this call here. Or I can give you a phone call too. Perfect. Okay. And Gerard, I was actually wondering, so you said you have your big hoop. Did you make that? Or did you receive the equipment from us? I can't quite remember. Awesome. Good. I'm glad you received it. Everything will be coming soon. If you requested anything else from us, it's already been shipped out or it's on its way. And hopefully, by the end of the week. Okay, well, that's everything I have for you guys today. This was a nice and easy session, but I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes if you guys have any other questions for me. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week for the strong person carry.
Hi, I just have a quick question. If everyone wants to leave, they can leave, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. My quick question is just, I know like our phys ed program, we're starting them in May. Is there like what's the date when all these different events need to be submitted in? Or does it say on those documents?
So I've outlined for you guys to start the events May 3rd until May 14th. We're pretty flexible though, as long as the results are submitted by the 19th of May.
So for those first 2 weeks, we should be doing it. And I'm just going to mark that down. Results
by the 19th.
Okay, by May 19th. Okay, awesome. Oh shoot, I was going to ask, I had one more question. I should have written it down. Oh, the last thing I noticed, you said the scorecards, you're going to send them to us closer to the games. Like we've already registered and everything. So like we don't have to notify you again. You'll just have us on the list and send us what we need.
Exactly. You got it. I'm just going to send everything out to you guys. It'll also be on our social media and on our website. So if ever you lose that email from me, you'll have access to it on a few different platforms.
Okay.
And the other thing I want to mention is, just so everyone knows, when you host an event, I would almost recommend submitting those results as soon as you can after. So let's say like on Monday, you're doing, let's say you're doing Screaming Eagle with everyone. If you have time that afternoon or even the next morning to submit those results, it'll kind of take work away in the end. So if you do all the events and then submit everything at once, it might take a while to do that. So I would suggest submitting results as soon as an event is finished, just to get it out of the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Gabby, I'm still a little bit confused. So I saw on like your Screaming Eagle form, you had non-Indigenous. So, so non-Indigenous students can participate and they are eligible for placing?
Great question, Gerard. So they can participate, but they are not eligible for placing.
Right.
So because we've opened this up across all of the schools in Manitoba, there are some schools who have only a select few Indigenous students, but they're still going to be participating with their entire student body to sort of introduce them to these traditional games.
Right.
So, but that being said, we do want to keep the medals and the awards within our Indigenous student population. So when you're submitting the results, you're going to look at that scorecard and see, oh, Sarah is non-Indigenous, so you would not need to submit her score. If you see Joey, who is Indigenous, as she identifies as Métis or First Nation Inuit, then you would submit the result for her.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Perfect.
I am struggling though. A couple parents have approached me, as well as students and then parents. They've raised the question. They said, well, I said, I'm doing it in my phys ed classes. Right. So they really don't have the option to opt out. But they've said, well, it's not fair and you can't make my kids participate then if they're not getting an award or recognition. And I did explain to them that it's cultural awareness. It's any suggestions how to sell it or because as I said, like it's, again, I don't want to be insensitive, but that's just the feedback I've recently been struggling with. And they are quite good athletes, and they're basically good kids, and they get along with everyone in class, but they've just kind of got their back up about this. Well, why the hell should I do it if I can?
Right.
In the middle.
So I know that's probably a tough situation to be in, and it's a tough thing for me to answer. But what I would suggest is to try to sell it as just trying to be inclusive of sort of the mainstream and the non-mainstream activities that kids should be exposed to. If it's part of your gym class and they're participating as students in your gym class, no matter what your module is, they're going to have to participate in it, right? It's difficult, like if parents are getting upset about not being recognized or not having awards, only the top 3 participants in the entire province for one activity are going to receive that award. So it's only a select few. It's going to be like 2% of however many students I have participating. I can definitely, let me think more on that, Gerard, and I can reach out and see if I have sort of a better answer for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't want to be a fly in the ointment, but it's just
No,
just a question I've been getting, and we've been I know Dan and I have sort of, rolled it around and around and around, and we couldn't come up with anything other than, well, maybe we can do something in school for you guys.
Yeah.
But
okay. Let me think on that, and I'll reach out.
Sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. I just have another question.
Hi, Gab.
Oh, hi, Roldan. How's
Hi,
it going?
Gab.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question. Because I'm reading, I read the guidelines or the rules of the basketball challenge, because it seems that